Bob Likens. I'm with the Pet Industry Joint Advisory Council. We are essentially the legislative and regulatory office for the responsible pet trade. So we are the ones that are essentially lobbying on behalf of the hobby and the trade in order to make sure that things are being done responsibly and ethically, and that when things are being done responsibly and ethically, the trade can stay in business and the hobby can keep enjoying the hobby. The reason they reached out to me today was to talk about a bill that's making its way through Congress right now. This is at the federal level. It's the Competes Act, which is a 2,000-page bill that has already been passed by the House. And in that 2,000 pages is about half a page that would dramatically affect the trade. It does some really generic sounding things that would just have a dramatic impact. The first thing it does is it vastly expands the authority of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. Now, they have always been responsible for keeping track of, managing, and controlling the species that are brought into the U.S. and the species that are exported from the U.S. This bill would give them authority over interstate commerce, which means they would then be stepping in on every plant or animal being transported from one state to another. When you take that huge jurisdiction and apply very general rules to it, it would just absolutely devastate the trade. I mean, we're in Florida, and there are a lot of species here in Florida that can be invasive. And so Florida has very strict rules and a long list of species you can't bring in. But Wyoming has not got the threat of an invasive lionfish like Florida does. So it's something that has to be managed at the state level. Unfortunately, what happens is the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service only has one tool, and that's banning things. So if it's invasive anywhere in the country, it could potentially be banned from trade or transport anywhere in the country. So that would affect anything that was aquacultured here in Florida and then sold elsewhere in the U.S. That is a huge impact. Now, on the saltwater side, there's a threat that's even greater. It would impact freshwater, but not to the degree of saltwater, and that is the rule that says that you have to have the species listed on a whitelist in order to bring it into the U.S. Now, traditionally, we have supported blacklist. There's a reason that if a species of animal is highly invasive or has the potential to be highly invasive, put it on a list, can't come into the U.S. This is just the opposite. This says you can't bring anything in unless it's on that whitelist. And it has to go through a full risk assessment to be put on that whitelist, and you have to be able to verify the trade numbers in that species to show that there's enough of a trade to go through the trouble. The problem is the U.S. government doesn't have any numbers on the trade in ornamental species. If it's not a CITES listed species, they don't keep track of it. So we'd be starting with a trade level of zero specimens and trying to prove it's otherwise. I think you can probably imagine the speed at which the U.S. government works when it comes to doing things like a risk assessment on a species, and there are about 35,000 species of fish in trade in the hobby. It also would create huge headaches, particularly on the freshwater side, for species that are either highly endangered or considered extinct in the wild and are only being kept alive because of the hobbyists out there. There are several types of cichlids out there that only exist in the world because the hobbyists and the hobby clubs have made the effort to keep those species in existence by breeding them in tanks. They no longer exist in the wild. And finally, the other thing it does, which I can't believe made it through the House of Representatives, was it gives the Secretary of Interior the power to declare an emergency on any species it likes and say, you can't do any trade in that species for 3 years. They're not answerable to the people. They don't have to write rules. They don't have to go to put it in the Federal Registry for public comment. They don't even have to go to the Congress and tell them. So that level of authority just doesn't belong with the Secretary. So those are the three things that are in this bill, buried in a 2,000-page bill, that we are extremely concerned about. This has been a process to get here. This is not somebody's bright idea that just popped up. About a year and a half ago, Senator Marco Rubio submitted a bill, Senate Bill 626, that does this and a lot of other things. He wants this bill. Last winter, we saw during budget reconciliation, the Speaker of the House of Representatives office put very similar language in the budget reconciliation bill, trying to get it through that way. Because that's how you get unpopular things through the Congress. You don't submit your own bill for it, you slip it into something that really needs to pass. The administration really wants the Competes Act to pass. It's a big trade bill, and it's very important. So we are not going to kill this bill, we just need to get this language taken out of it. The other thing about this is you'll notice Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, and Senator Rubio, very different politically. This is not a red versus blue issue. This is a hobby and trade need to educate Congress on what the problem is, because there are a few people that are fired up about getting this language. As I said, we've seen this in Senate Bill 626, we've seen this in last year's budget reconciliation. With the Competes Act, what happened was earlier this year, a 20-page bill was submitted to the Rules Committee. The Rules Committee took out everything in it, left the title, and put 2,000 new pages in it. Now we've been sorting through it and fighting with it, and I will say this has been the thing that has really gotten both the hobby and the trade fired up. We set up a link on our website where you can directly contact your senator about this. It was originally set up to contact your representative before it passed the House, and we have already had hobbyists and people in the trade send over 10,000 letters on this. And that is by far the most we have ever had when we've been trying to get folks to do a congressional engagement. Let's face it, most people never hear about these things until after the fact, when some store owner's trying to explain why you can't get those fish anymore. With that, how does the future look? This bill has already passed the House of Representatives. It's been sent over to the Senate. Now, last year, the Senate passed something similar, but much more stripped down, that doesn't have any of this Lacey Act language in it. So there are a couple of things the Senate can do. They can say, okay, we'll take up the House bill and debate that on the floor of the Senate, or they can say, we're not going to do anything with it, and we're just going to ignore it. But it is a very big priority to the administration, to the Biden administration, so that's unlikely. Or they can do what we think is most likely to happen, and that is they're going to tell the House, we already passed our version of the bill, you've passed your version of the bill, we're going to set up what's called a conference committee, we're going to put a half a dozen senators and a half a dozen representatives around a table, and we're going to make you guys hammer out the differences. That's what we expect to happen. So what we are trying to do is get as many people as we can in the hobby and in the trade to reach out to their senator and say, hey, contact this committee and let them know that you want the Lacey language taken out. We've already written the letter for you. All you have to do is about 3 clicks, fill in your address so we know which senator to send it to, and it's done. I'm begging you, go to pjac.org, you'll see a take action button, and it'll take you through the whole process. You can write your own comments in addition to our letter as much as you like, but if you just want to send the letter we've already written that addresses these issues, it'll take you less than 2 minutes to do the whole thing. The only other things I can ask you to do are, if you're in the trade and you're not a PJAC member, you ought to be. And if you're not, for some reason, if you are going to dig in your heels and say, I don't want to join PJAC, that's fine. Join some association that's sticking up for you and that is engaged on this, because we're working with several other associations across the pet community, whether it be USARK with the herps or NAA with aquaculturing. We're working with a bunch of other organizations to make sure we are all passing exactly the same message on this, but you need to belong to somebody who is going to represent your interests. And if you're a hobbyist, you need to be going into the stores where you get fish and asking them if they're a PJAC member, and if not, why not? Because it is the cheapest stay in business insurance they will ever find, and we do the engagements on all these things so you don't have to. And just to give you an idea, at the state and federal level, we look at about 1,300 bills a year, and that's with a staff of 8. So please get involved. Go to pjac.org, do the letter, send the letter, and join PJAC, and encourage the businesses that you shop at to join PJAC, or at least another association that's engaged in legislative affairs. That is my spiel. I got it done before they were ready for the next aquascaping competition. So I will be at the back if anybody has questions, since I'm not going to hold this up, since I know that's why you're really here. But thank you very much for your time.